We met Honey at 10 a.m. in the additional parking area on the side wall of a local boutique. She was sitting in a rented white Volvo. Riot and I both did an eye search of the vehicle before we got up close. We had already done the same of the surrounding area. As promised, I had smoked the clothes I had worn for 40 days, except for the one cheap outfit I had on. Tossing those items into the big blazing campfire the natives had going the night before was easy. Wrapped in a couple of brown paper bags, the 40 days turned to ashes in less than 5 minutes. My memories, however, are permanent. Leaving Nana Ana, the land, the sky above, the reservation, and the people was only outweighed by returning to Mama and my family. I couldn't explain how a total of 42 days had turned into real feelings. The fresh air, the stream, the lake, the organic gardens, the fruit fields caressed me. More than that, the first-time incidents were situations that flipped me over from young child to young woman. So many things that I could never possibly imagine happened. Having 4 native girls from age 10 to 24 celebrating my womanhood the same as if it was their own was awkward for me, but it moved my heart some. So much so, I became uncomfortable in the cheap boy outfits I had been wearing. Onatai's big sister, taking the time to explain the meaning of it all, how to keep myself super clean, and in what ways women are special, made womanhood desirable to me. I used to hate pretense. Now I hated it even more. I was liking being a young woman, falling into the feeling of my growing body and swirling emotions. It was already impossible to conceal the curves of my hips and backside in the first place. Now I had no desire to wear a too big tee to make my small waist and young breasts disappear from sight. I didn't want to flaunt it seriously. My friend Ebony hated girls who only thought about their looks, kept messing with themselves, and couldn't stay out of the mirror. She hated them as much as she hated the robots. She believed that all dumb girls, no matter how good or ugly they looked, were exactly the same, worthless. So I tried not to be that and never wanted to be associated with being dumb or inferior even before I met her. I buried my journal as I promised Papa. I dropped it inside an empty cornflake cereal box along with Mama's address and a special thank you note to Nana Ana. I buried it under the soil closest to the 11th tree on the straight path from the ivy leaf, covered wooden bush block door of Nana Ana's brick house, simple. In my hand, I held my recipe journal that contained almost 50 recipes for lunches and dinners and desserts that I had made myself. It saved me from my eating disorder. The recipe journal also contained 31 days of learning from Nana Ana, which turned out to be better than any school on the planet. Inside, I had cool things like pieces of sage and oregano, rosemary, bay leaves, cilantro, lemongrass, aloe vera, thyme, and peppermint. Also, I had a tiny bag of repellent, which I renamed Back the Fuck Up. It was a concoction of cayenne and other secret things that, when blown in someone's eyes or nose, caused them to not see or balance themselves long enough for me to get away. All the ingredients were legal. If I got searched and found, I'd shrug my shoulders and say, seasonings for our Labor Day holiday barbecue. My recipe journal was the first book I ever wrote, the first book I ever read from cover to cover, and the first book I ever loved. I would miss Onatai after all, although I would miss her horse more than her. Her horse was the first one I ever got to ride without some adult holding the reins. Her horse was the first one that actually galloped with me alone, riding its back, instead of walking in small ovals or circles at the zoo or in the blocked-off street at a block party or carnival. I only got to ride like that once, right before my time on the reservation was over. I liked Onatai's father. He owned a construction company. His company had built many of the places on the reservation, even part of the casino. He was tall, heavy, but not fat. The best thing about him was his voice. It was an instrument. I imagined if he wasn't a construction guy, he'd be a singer. The type of singer who the whole audience turns completely silent for, in anticipation of his voice coming from his gut and pouring out into the room so powerfully, it shook the walls. One afternoon after my learning lesson with Nana Ana, he was out watching Onatai ride. As I waited for my turn, he sang and Siri hummed some. I think his voice made her feel safe, and her voice moved him to tears. I had never seen any man cry before. Not even my strong papa when he got cuffed and taken. When I looked at this tall, big native mountain of a man, his tears didn't seem like a weakness. He didn't feel nothing like a sucker or a bitch-ass nigga. That same afternoon, he walked out his house with me and Siri. He walked us to Nana Anna's pickup truck. It was his first time ever doing that. We all stood there silently, facing Nana Anna, until me and Siri climbed in and Nana Anna pulled off. The next day, Onata was so happy that she promoted me to being her best friend. My drummer was not the first man who ever rescued me, but he was the first man who drummed the beat only for me. He tapped in precision with the movements of my young body. He was the first one to ask me what my body was saying while and when it was moving. My drummer was the first person I ever met who lived in a tree. He was the first one to place me in a box and slide me on the zip cord across the forest, giving me that first time flying feeling, a rush so nice and tingly. My last day seeing him, he said, "Now go and grow up, then come back to see me." Before. All my little mind was thinking was, before what? Before what? Before what? They say a person's first time at anything good is the best feeling in the world, a strong high, a feeling a girl or guy would chase forever. I wasn't sure if that's the truth, but I know all of the first time good feelings I had in those 40 days made me feel good enough to stay alive, become strong, and smile for more than a few quick seconds. In the parking lot, we were leaning over and looking inside the Volvo right before the automatic lock opened. Me and Riot got in. "Honey, you got everything?" Riot asked. "Yep, right from the dollar store," she answered. "Pop the trunk," Riot told her. Me and Riot both got back out. "Baseball bats?" was the first thing out of my mouth. "Just in case, you never know. We might have to knock somebody out. I'm not holding. Bats are legal," Riot said in complete seriousness. "A beach ball, a baseball, a water cooler, a flashlight, a jump rope, a grill for two," I laughed. "A box of matches, charcoal, and a bunch of boxes of Pampers." "Pampers?" I said, pointing. When I looked inside one of the Pamper boxes, they were neatly packed and stacked cartons of cigarettes from the reservation, and not diapers. "You remembered," I clapped for Riot. I liked that she listened to what I suggested even though I was younger. Riot didn't smile. She was serious like how she is on any mission. Before closing the trunk, she showed me a small shopping bag, which held a sack which held a clay pot. "A gift for you from Nana Anna," Riot said. My eyes welled up with tears. Inside the car, Riot checked under both seats, in back, then in front under the driver's seat. Honey lifted her legs for her. "Damn, don't you trust me?" Honey asked her. "Let's go," was all that Riot replied. I understood. I thought to myself, Papa would say, always be good to a good worker and a good customer. But Mama would say, never trust a fucking dope fiend crackhead. Now the Volvo was moving down the road.